Hey everybody. So back for another stream. I am using Ecamm Live instead of OBS this time. So hopefully we don't have the same problems as we did the other day, but it's also software I'm not as familiar with. So if anybody notices anything messed up, like if the audio is not working properly or any other weird stuff like that, let me know and hopefully we can get it all sorted out. So, yeah, why don't I talk a little bit about what I'm doing today? So anyone who is following me maybe is aware that I've been working on this Tailwind UI project with Steve, which is like a big sort of component directory with a bunch of examples designed by Steve and built by me for people who want to put together websites a little bit faster. And we are hoping to launch this next week, so we have a bunch of kind of tasks to get out of the way between now and then. And one of those is putting together the actual page for people to kind of read about the pricing and pay for the product. So that's what I was going to build today. So I will kind of show you what we're going to be working on. So this is kind of like the mobile view of what we're going to be building. It's like a couple stacked pricing cards with some different styles, like a testimonial, and then like some FAQ stuff. And then this is the desktop version. So same sort of thing, just kind of laid out bigger and wider and a little bit more exciting. So we're going to spend most of this focused on this top section because I actually have the bottom sections basically built already because they're basically just components that are available in Tailwind UI. So we'll get a little bit of Tailwind work going on here, as well as you'll kind of get a little demo of what it looks like to grab stuff from Tailwind UI and bring it into a project and see how smoothly that goes. I don't even know if it'll be smooth yet. So this will be kind of just testing it out and seeing what happens. Yeah, so why don't we just get started, I guess. So one thing I'm curious about is what color Steve is using for this stuff. Okay, looks like we're going to be all right. All right, so I've put together just like an empty HTML template where we'll start hacking on this. And I'm going to use Sizzy so I can check all my breakpoints while we're building it and make sure things aren't too crazy. Yeah. Regarding the pricing, some people kind of asking about it. This is our plan for like the real pricing. Of course, things may change at the 11th hour, so I don't want to make it an official announcement or anything, but this is kind of the plan. So kind of choose which one you want. If you just want stuff to build web apps or you want stuff to build landing pages and stuff, or if you want both, you can get them at a bit of a discount. And you can use it on as many projects as you like. There's no like monthly cost or anything like that. And we're going to keep updating these packages with new components for the foreseeable future until we run out of ideas. All right. So yeah, let's get started. So I've kind of got just some defaults set up here like I normally would. But first, why don't we, maybe we'll just make this like our main section. And that'll be kind of like the pricing stuff. So we have the Tailwind UI logo here. So we'll pull that in. I think I actually have it in like, let's see. If we go to public, IMG, Tailwind UI logo on dark. So we'll just grab Tailwind UI logo on dark. Yeah, there's going to be a new release of Tailwind to coincide with Tailwind UI, I think. Maybe not right at the same time. We'll see. We haven't totally decided how we're going to do it yet. Steve is still fine-tuning the colors. We don't want a new release of Tailwind to hold up the release of Tailwind UI. So what we might do is just give people a copy of like the work-in-progress config file to sort of pull in. But ideally, I'd like to have like Tailwind 1.3 or whatever we call it out. So Tailwind UI is just relying on the default values. Okay, so we've got an image. Then we'll do, I guess we'll make this an H1. Choose a package. And then we'll do like a P tag here. Pay once, use on as many projects as you like. View 1.2, as far as I know, has no breaking changes. Learn more about our permissive licensing. I don't think Sizzy has any idea of templates. It's kind of annoying. I would really love that because I just installed Sizzy on this new machine and I didn't have all my presets set up. I do have an affiliate link for Sizzy if anyone cares. There's kind of the URL. Doesn't come through very well here. Maybe I'll just, does it work if I type like this way? I don't know, whatever. Yeah, there you go. So if you want to check out Sizzy and you heard about it from me, that would be kind of the best place to check it out. The way that I have the breakpoints set up is I do 375 as the first one, and that is just because that's like a regular iPhone size. And I don't think many phones out there are smaller than the iPhone, so it seems like a good one to work on. And then I do 639 because like that's 1 pixel before the 640 breakpoint. So I like to be able to see like what does this design look like at its biggest before it switches. Then I do 640 because that's a breakpoint. Then 767 because again that's the absolute biggest the 640 breakpoint is going to get. Then 768 because that's the next breakpoint. Then 1023 which is 1 pixel before the next breakpoint, which is 1024. Then 1279 which is 1 pixel before 1280. And then I do a 1440 just to see like how does it look when we're past the biggest breakpoint. And this is kind of how I judge everything. I'll take a look at that Tailwind issue at some point. If the extend stuff is not working the same as it did before, I mean, all the tests are passing, so all the intended behavior is still working as expected, so maybe you're relying on undefined behavior before. All right, so let's get back to our design here. And you know what? I'm going to resize this so that when I tab between things, it's not so bad. Okay, cool. All right, so now that we have this stuff, I'm going to put this in a div so we can style this separately. And then we have kind of like these cards. So we'll put that in a div. We'll make a div for each card. And we'll just say like, just so I have like a placeholder for this, we'll say bundle, then we'll say application UI and marketing. And we'll come back to this stuff last. So for now, though, let's just start on this top stuff. So first I'm going to give it a background color. So it looks like it's gray 900. So we'll just do that on this whole main element. So we'll just say class. No, we only need one class there. Gray 900. And then for Tailwind UI, Steve has this as 27. So I think we'll just do like H7. And we'll do MX Auto. H7 is going to be 28 pixels, so that's probably kind of what Steve wanted here. And then for this H1, I'm going to do font display because I've got a custom display font for Gilroy, which is sort of our brand font for this. We'll do semi-bold. We'll do text. 36 is 4XL, I think. That's just a guess. Steve has letting none on that. And what else do we got? Text white. So we'll do that kind of last. And this is going to be text center, but maybe this whole div, we'll just throw text center on this whole div. Let's see how much of this we can do without looking at the browser and see how close it is once we get to it. Gap between the logo is 36. It's kind of a weird one. I think we have MT9 though, so in our custom config for this project anyways. Oh, what's the text color on this? Gray 300. Not, oh, what am I talking about? I'm looking at the wrong element. Okay, so here we've got text large, letting 6. Text gray 300 and margin top of 4, 16 pixels. And then down here we've got text small. Now Steve has a line height of 1.25. Lately I've been preferring to use the fixed line heights that come with Tailwind. So I think I'm just going to set this to what we normally do for 14 text, which is letting 5. And we might have to just adjust some spacing by eye a little bit. So he's got 14 on this. And actually, we should be doing this. This is a little trick, by the way. Not everybody knows. If you want to do stuff like setting line height on things, don't do it on an inline level element like an A tag. Make sure you're doing that stuff on the nearest block level element, because otherwise the height of this element won't be what you expect, because this element will have the different font size, but the line height for this element will be calculated based on whatever was there before. So you can run into some weirdness if you're not careful with that. All right, so then we want to do some color. So the color we do have to do right on the link, because the link is going to want to have its own color otherwise. And we got font medium. We can do that right on the link too. And looks like we have an underline. And probably if we wanted to hover style, it would be like text to white or something like that. Now we've also got some padding up here, 52. I don't think we have 52 in Tailwind. We have 56 possibly, which is 14. So I'm going to add PT 14 here. I'm not going to do padding bottom because you'll see that this background kind of is a different color at the bottom here. So we're going to want to think through how to pull that off, and I don't want to put the bottom padding on the element that has the gray background, I don't think. I think we're going to want to do it somewhere else. We might not even be able to do it here. We might have to create a wrapper element, but we'll just have to see what happens. So I guess let's just see how close we got here. So it looks like we don't have PT14, so let's just try PT12. I think that's probably not too bad, really. Otherwise, like, this is kind of close. We're missing some horizontal padding. So the way that me and Steve have been doing horizontal padding for this project, we kind of came up with some sort of standard guidelines for ourselves, where we decided to use 16 pixels on mobile, and then 24 pixels on small screens and up, and then 32 pixels on large screens and up. So I've just been kind of sticking with that up until this point. And actually, we definitely do need a wrapper element here now that I think about it, because we're going to want to max width this stuff. Not necessarily right this second. We can kind of wait till we need it. But I'm going to put this stuff here instead. We'll deal with that after. All right, so yeah, so this is looking like pretty close, I think. The wrapping is not quite perfect, but that might just be, oh, you know what? This should be text XL. That will help. And then letting 7. Yeah, okay, so that's looking a lot closer now. Okay, so next let's work on this card. So I've got a div for the card here. We've got the horizontal padding set up on the parent element. So I'm just going to start thinking this through, I guess. So we're going to have a couple sections. We got a top section for the white background and then a gray background. So we're definitely going to have at least 2 divs here. And then in here, we're going to have an element that holds this get both packages badge. So let's just put that in here. Then we're going to have an element that holds the rest of this stuff. So I guess we'll just do bundle, and then I guess we'll make this like an H2, application UI plus marketing. And then we've got to do this pricing section. So I think we'll just maybe do this with a few spans. So we'll have, this is actually $298, since that's like the combined price of the 2 packages. So we'll have that just to, so people can kind of get a sense for what the difference in price is if you bundle it versus buy them separately. So let's let's kind of give ourselves a little bit of space around these elements so we know what we're looking at here. And then here, I guess we'll do like an unordered list with some stuff in it. So we're going to want to grab the icon. I think I have that icon here. And it looks like Steve has used teal 500. So we'll go with class equals h6 w6 text teal 500. And then next to that, we'll just put a p tag that has some content in it. I'm not going to duplicate this li until we've done the styling, because otherwise it's going to be annoying to update all the styles. So we'll get this one looking good, and then we'll just duplicate it and add the extra copy. So under this UL, I'm going to do a div with a button, and actually this is a link, not a button. So this is going to say buy now. We might change this language, we'll see, but this is a good start. So let's look at some styles here. So this is text XL. He's got letting 6 on this, which is interesting, but we'll just copy it so that we can, I mean, this is a height of 60. Sometimes I feel like Steve forgets to make things match what we need them to. But we'll just see where we can get with it. So let's just make this a block level element. Let's just start with like px6, py4, see what it ends up looking like, and we'll kind of go from there. So we've got a corner radius of 8. So I'll do rounded LG. The button text is font display. Text white. Font semi-bold. Okay, so we probably need to do text center on this too, since it's a link. Won't be centered automatically like a button would. Then we'll figure out some hover styles and stuff for it, like once we've actually done it. So this element here is the white background one. So we'll do, let's find out where that element is. This one. BG white. Now this is the card. So this is going to have a rounded LG, corner radius, and overflow hidden. There's probably a shadow on it too. Yeah, shadow XL. We've got a border between these two sections, it looks like. A gray 100 border, and this is a gray 50 background. That's like a new color that's going to be coming to Tailwind soon. So we'll do gray 50 here. We'll do border T2, border gray 100. And let's do some of the text up here. So let's do this badge. So badge, we'll make it like an inline block element. Or you know what, let's do inline flex. Text SM, letting 5, tracking, wider, text white, font semi-bold. And then we got some, it looks like Steve, if we look at this, he's using this new auto layout Figma and feature in Figma, which is cool because it maps closer to CSS, so you can see like the horizontal spacing and stuff. So he's got a PX of 4 and a PY of 1 and a rounded full. All right, so now this, I think we're going to say flex, justify, center. And we're also going to want to like translate this up. So let's do transform, negative translate y 1/2 to have it overlap the card. And this whole card has this teal border. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to make sense to implement this using a border though, because as you can see, the way that Steve's designed this, these buttons, they all kind of align at this left edge. If I put a border on here, it's going to push the elements in by 2 pixels on each side because borders, take up space. And if we try to do a transparent border on this element to make up for it, I feel like we'll see some stuff under it that we don't want to see. We'll have to think about the best way to do that. I'm not entirely unconvinced that the best way to do this might be an absolute position to element that sits on top with we'll see. Can't do a white border on the other ones. Okay, so we're not kind of where I hoped to be yet. Let's get some more styles in place, and then we'll go and see where we're at and fix some things. Text LG, letting 7, I don't know. Font semi-bold, font display, text teal 500, text center. Oh, uppercase. I guess we're going to do uppercase on this one too. Forgot about that. And this will be uppercase too. And this has really wide tracking. So we'll just go tracking widest. Okay. And I'm trying to think about the best way to handle this gap. I think we're going to have to just kind of eyeball it. Because if we're going to use a translate to position this up, it's going to get kind of funky. So let's just start by doing I don't know. We'll just do an MT6 on this and play it by ear. So horizontally though, we've got 6 pixels of padding. So we can do, or 24, sorry. And then this is 40 from the bottom, and this is just going to be something weird. Actually, probably 0, because we want to be able to do this translate in a simple way. Okay, so now this is going to be class text 3XL, font semi-bold, letting, I think we do letting 9 on that. Font display, text gray 900. Okay. We're going to want to do some centered text on this H2 as well. All right, now this one we're probably going to want to do flex. This isn't centered, I don't think. Let's group those for a second. What happens if I center those? It jumps down a little bit. So, a couple ways we could do it. I think we'll just start by doing items start. And probably, would we want that going all the way to the edge? No, we probably want this to be justify center. And we'll use some padding between things to control that stuff. It kind of depends too, if we want this to be perfectly centered. This is actually sort of a more complicated design to implement than it looks. Especially once you get down here, because this element is of course not, I don't think it's centered anyways. You know what, it's actually not far off from centered. So maybe we will be able to get away with just relying on the centering behavior. Okay, so we'll do, remember what I said about don't set font size and letting on inline elements? I still agree with that. However, in this case, because this is a flex parent, it doesn't really matter because these aren't going to actually be treated like inline elements. Which is maybe a good argument to make these a div instead of a span, but I don't know. I've never been able to make a firm decision on that. What do we do for text to XL leading, I wonder? We do leading 8 in the rest of the components. So I'll stick with that. Font display, font semi-bold, text gray 400. So you've got some letter spacing on this too, interestingly enough. I don't know if that's deliberate or not. Probably is. Like if I get rid of that, what happens? Yeah, it looks a little bit better. Okay, cool. Good to know. So this one, we're going to do the height of the bigger one. So this is text 7XL letting none, I think. And we'll wrap this in a span. And we'll move the $sign to its own spot. So we're going to go text, gray 900. Font display, font medium. Tracking tighter. It's just a guess. And now this is going to be text. Let's give ourselves some room for the class attribute here. Who's this fucking loser? Let's get him out of here. Remove. How do I delete the? How do I hide user on channel? All right. See ya. All right. For VS Code, I just use Menlo. This is the default Mac OS kind of code font. Text 5. What's 36 in Tailwind? I love how I don't even know anything about Tailwind. 36 divided by 16. 2.25, which is text 4XL. Okay, cool. Font me. Oh, it's already medium from the parent, so that'll be fine. I guess we should make this like a flex container too, so we can keep that up at the top. Let's just see where we're at, I guess. For a minute I thought I'd gone to Sizzy and it looks perfect. All right, so this is not quite what we want. This is probably should be 6XL. That would probably make a big difference. Okay, cool. And this is going to have a strike through. Is that even doable in Tailwind? Do I even know anything about my own framework? Line through. Good thing someone wrote these docs. That doesn't look good. All right, this is looking closer. I'm just going to copy this for the USD since it's the same. But we'll get rid of the line through. And then we just got to figure out some spacing stuff. Pretty sure Steve made that the same anyways. That would be smart of him. Okay, so we've got those like top aligned. If we just did item center, I wonder like, does that look fine? It's okay. Let's do item start, and then for each one of these, we'll do like, we'll experiment with the top margin to shove things down a bit. Steve has it kind of like offset from the top, but not centered, like kind of more like that, I think. Okay, so now let's add some space. What would be the easiest way to do it? I mean, I might just start by just adding some horizontal space here. What has he got generally here? 14 pixels. So we're gonna have to do 12 or 16. And I guess we'll do the same thing for this. We'll try like positioning that a little bit differently. Now that leading is looking medium. I wonder why this looks so heavy compared to Steve's design. Let me look at... Oh, I don't have the other font weight. Okay, so let me... this is going to be annoying. Gilroy. We're like self-hosting these fonts, and they just like make it so annoying to do. Let me see if I can even figure out like which one's which. Maybe I can tell from here. So we've got 3A4287 underscore 4. That's normal. Please tell me 3 is slightly lighter. No, is 2 slightly lighter? Is 1 lighter than that? Hold on a second, folks. I'm going to go over to my other screen so I don't reveal any weird, who knows what sort of secrets I have on my computer. And see if I can find the what I'm looking for here. Sorry about this unpleasantry. Just trying to figure out if I have this CSS file unchanged. No. No. All right. It's kind of annoying, but I feel like I do have to unfortunately get this right to be able to get the design right. Why is it moving my stuff around? Okay. What's going on? My computer is going crazy. Something is like not working as expected here. I've got like some Alfred window open that I can't get rid of. All right, hold on. Not the most exciting part of a stream. I get it. But we have to do justice to the design. All right. Hopefully I will have this ready within the next 60 seconds. strange. You know what? Seeing like what is happening now that I have tried to like start this all from scratch is making me realize maybe I already have this file. Maybe not. All right, this is brutal, so let's just forget about this. Sorry. We will just have to suffer through things not looking quite the way they're supposed to. All right, back to the chat. All right, so where do we leave off here? We're getting some spacing set up on stuff. All right, so above this, we've got 18 pixels. Not a real Tailwind utility, but we'll make do. Maybe what I'll do for the pricing for now is I'll just use a different font. So that, that didn't work either. Font mono. Let's just make sure that I'm not going crazy here. Oh, I'm doing it in the wrong place because I'm a silly man. I'll just have to remember to go and change that. Okay, so this is where like it's kind of weird. This is like pretty visually centered, but we're not going to get that result easily here, even though this stuff is centered. If I was to go and kind of open this here, so we can look at it in DevTools. Just kind of curious, make sure it is centered and not just like bleeding out. Yeah, so I mean it is centered. It's just this text is wider than this text, of course, so it doesn't look centered. Trying to think if there's like a good trick for this. We could just kind of like tinker with it, you know? Another solution that's maybe okay is to just pick a width. So like if you look at this, this is like 54 pixels wide, 48 pixels wide. I think we have like a 64 in Tailwind, right? So we could just say like give this like a width of 16 and give this a width of 16. And now they should at least like be closer to centered because now both these elements are the same width. So this block should be like, in theory, this is centered in the card now. Although it still doesn't really look centered because this $sign is kind of messing things up. Let me check if my font download thing worked. File that they give you is so gross, but maybe I can still figure this out. Let's see. No, everything's got kind of obscured, terrible names. Okay, I'm going to just do this the gross way anyways. So we're going to update this to just be an awful version of the CSS that's loading way too many fonts for browsers I don't care about. And no, even this is terrible because they don't friggin' assign them to the right font weights. They just like make you name every single font. See how here I've got like, okay, this is normal, font weight 600. Here they just say, oh, I'm just going to name them, whatever. So it's pretty gruesome, really. Man. And they're not even sorted in the right order. So like bold and heavy and stuff is all just all over the place. So I'd have to sort them and then figure it out. And really sad. You know what maybe I'll do is like a an alternate solution really quickly. Google Fonts has this font called Poppins that is pretty close, but their version is corrupt. I always forget about this. The P is screwed up. See this weirdness here? If you go look at Font Squirrel, they have the better version of the Poppins font here. These are the things that you learn when you obsess about minor details, by the way. So take a look at this lowercase p on Font Squirrel. See how this like is a pretty balanced width right there? And then you look at the same thing on Google Fonts and it's all like jacked up. And see how this like cutout is like totally not in the right spot and it gets super wide over there? Google Fonts is not very good. So don't use Google Fonts. Everything is bad. Everything in the world. This is an annoying problem. Okay. I guess we'll just suffer through doing this with the wrong font and not being able to really get things aligned the way that we want. Sad times, but what can you do? Okay, so moving on. We do need to get some spacing set up here. So it looks like between bundle, that's 9 pixels, which is close to 8, I guess. So we can do MT2 for that. And then from this to here, 18, we said 16, that'll probably be good enough. All right, and then we do need to put some space between the card and this. So Steve has 61 pixels, which is whatever, 64 I guess we'll go with. So MT16. And we'll put that on this element. We might have to switch from margin to padding depending on how we do some of the other stuff in this design. Okay, so get both packages. We're missing the background color in that. That's seems like an obvious thing to include. All right, so it's getting cut off because the overflow hidden. So that is a bummer. That is a problem that I didn't anticipate. So we'll have to think about how to do this differently now. So if we get rid of overflow hidden, like it's not the end of the world. We just have to now go in here and say that this has like a rounded TLG, and then the other div after it has a rounded BLG. And we need to duplicate the rounded corners on both the inside elements and the outside elements. Because if we don't do it on the outside element, the shadow is not going to trace it properly. So this is looking like it's in generally the right spot now. It looks like this gap is pretty reasonable. You can see if we get rid of the transform, nothing else is going to change in the design. But just the badge moves up, right? So that seems like probably okay. All right, so let's just move on to this stuff now. So here we've got 43 and 25, 27. Okay, so we'll just go with 40 pixels of padding. PT10, PX6. And what has he got below here? 32, PB8. Okay, so now each LI, we're going to want to do class is flex. We're going to want to do item start just in case things wrap. And hopefully this is just, okay, so it's got a 24 pixel line height. And this is a 24 pixel icon. So we're in good shape there. So let's do flex shrink 0 on this. This doesn't get messed up. We got a gap of like 21, so that's more like 16 when you account for the fact that the icon has white space around it. Text base, letting 6, just to be explicit. Text gray 500. Font medium. Streams are bad, eh? What is this? Is there anybody in the chat who feels like paying attention to the spam for me that I could give moderator permissions to or something so they can just get rid of this crap if they see it so I can just keep working? If you feel like volunteering for that, just say so and I'll promote you to a moderator, whatever that means. Okay, so let's get this button fixed, by the way. BG Gray 800 or something, maybe? Okay. Make a couple people moderators here. So there, I made Rust and Adam and Dan moderators. So you guys can help out if you don't mind. All right, so all marketing components. And these have a gap of what? 16, so MT4. Lifetime access. All this information is probably going to change. Steve just kind of like threw some junk in here so we could get a sense of it, but we got to really nail down the copy at some point. Okay. Man, so many windows to manage here. Okay, so space above the button next, I think. 40. So where's the button? MT10. And maybe we'll do like a hover state of like BG Gray 700, so it gets a little lighter on hover sort of thing. Seems fine. Maybe we'll throw like a transition on that. Transition, ease in, out, duration 150 maybe. You'll definitely won't be able to see this on the stream probably, but yeah, I got like a little transition now. Pretty cool. All right. I'm really, really sad about this font problem. I can't even explain it to you. All right, let's think about this border. One thing that's going to be hard about it is the badge is centered with it, and I think I'm not convinced that that's going to be possible to achieve. I think we're going to end up with like I don't think it's going to be easy to do a 2-pixel border. Like we might have to do like some hackery. Let's just put it that way. So this is what I'm going to try. See if we can get this going. So here's the card, right? So let's make this position relative for a second. And I'm just going to collapse this and this. And we're going to add this div down here that's only purpose is to be for the border. So we're going to say class is rounded LG. We're going to go, absolute inset 0, rounded LG, border 2, border teal 500 maybe? Or what's the border on this? Teal 400? And first of all, let's just see. Do we get that border show up? Yeah, so it shows up and you can see it kind of like cuts through the badge, right? Which is not ideal, but we can work around that. So I think I'm actually going to take the badge. I wonder if we put the badge. So let's put the badge here. And then instead of MT6 here, we'll just put a PT6 on here. That should be like the same effect. No, not quite. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. We need to like absolute position this as well. And then we actually have some more control over things anyways. Okay, so this is going to be absolute inset x0 top 0. That actually does look like it's already centered-ish. So we might not have to do much here. Let's move this to like you know what? I think maybe we can take this absolute position div and put it here. Yeah, okay. So what I'm wondering is this actually centered on that line? And one way to kind of test this, I have a suspicion that like this is 28 pixels tall. I bet you this is off by 1 pixel, maybe 2. No, maybe a half, sorry, I mean. So I'm just going to try something. I'm going to take this translate thing and I'm just going to make it a calc. We're going to say calc 50% minus 1 pixel plus 1 pixel. That looks perfectly centered to me, right? So we're going to want to trick this into doing what we want, which is totally doable. I'll show you how I would do this. We're just going to layer some transforms. So we're going to do a transform on this too. And we're going to say translate pixel y. So we're going to translate the parent container down by a pixel and translate the child up by a half. And I think that'll be perfectly centered now. Yeah, that looks good. So now we can choose the padding for this bundle text. Actually, see how none of this is selectable? We should make sure that this border one has pointer events none. Okay, so now we can select this stuff. Okay, so now we can choose the vertical padding for this kind of based on the distance between bundle and the top instead of even thinking about this, which kind of makes that a little bit nicer to deal with. So we could probably just do like PT, I don't know, maybe it's like PT12 or something. Like, that's probably decent as a starting point. And yeah, I think like that looks like pretty close, really. I think Steve has a border on, or sorry, a shadow on this button, shadow MD. So we can do that too. something I've been doing lately for button shadows is when I usually implement focus styles for buttons, I do it using a box shadow. But if you use a box shadow for a focus style, it overrides the box shadow that's on the element. So what I found to be a good trick is to layer my shadows by putting sort of the elevation shadow on a background element. It means duplicating the border radius, but I found it to be a nice trick because now I can do, like, on this button, I can do something like focus, outline none, focus, shadow, outline. And now, like, when you get that kind of focus ring, the shadow, the elevation shadow, is still there underneath. And it can, in most cases, you can't really notice it, but sometimes you can, and it looks weird. So it's a good little trick. All right, so that's something, right? So I guess let's do these other cards now. Now, these are mostly like this one, but actually just like simplified. So let's just clone this whole card and make 2 more of them. And we're going to have a lot of duplication, but it's just a static marketing page, so not a huge problem in my opinion. So spacing wise, we got 16 pixels between each one. So let's just do MT4. MT4. It's crazy how much markup is necessary for just a card. Okay, now we can get rid of this stuff. Now this is actually nice, right? Like, to me, this is a sort of good supporting evidence that our implementation of doing this little add-on badge thing and this border was actually kind of good, because we can delete that kind of feature from the card by just like deleting this piece of markup, and that's actually not going to break the rest of the card. Like, the rest of the card just like survives totally fine. So we implemented it in a way where it was truly just this like standalone decoration, this like composable layer. So actually, I'm pretty happy that we did it that way, because that made it easier for me to do these updates. Okay, so let's change this, find the second card here. We have no bundle text, so that can go away. This just becomes application UI. We have no striked out text. This just becomes 149. This one becomes just marketing. No striked out text. Feels like a... Yeah, never mind. All right. I'm not going to worry too much about like getting these positioned exactly right until I have time to make the font changes, because it's going to be wasted effort otherwise. So let's just try and get some of this stuff right. So for these other buttons, it's going to be... What do we got for this background shadow? Is it a bigger shadow or is it the same? No, MD, TL600. Okay, so we got a white background. Text, TL600. Maybe we'll go to like text, teal 400 on hover or something. Let's just kind of see how that looks. Maybe 500 is enough. I'm going to open up Chrome here and keep Chrome over here instead of Sizzy for a second, because using the dev tools is a little easier in Chrome. Did I type 700? 600. Looks a lot darker here, but maybe that's just my eyes. Looks like it's a different size too. So this is 48. Ah, yeah, it is a smaller button. Is this font size different? 64, 64. Okay, so just the button's smaller. Okay, so we're going to go with text, base. So we still got a 56 pixel button here, so we're going to want to Why is things scrolling weirdly? Someone taking over my computer? Okay. That'll do. Yeah, cool. That's probably fine. It looks like Steve has a bit more spacing on the bottom of this one. 40, 32. I don't know if that's deliberate or not. I'll just get him to review it when we're all done. All right, so do the same thing for this one. Change this to 10. Okay, so that's looking okay. Now, here's where things get like kind of challenging. We got to do this background thing. So this will be kind of a fun challenge. I had like a trick that I was using for this in the Tailwind components that will be fun to see if I remember how I did it. My life is currently a blur. So I think if I remember, what I did is I took this parent element. I gave this position relative, and then I have like an absolute position element inside of it with a BG white. And I think I did something like height 3/4 or something. All right, so let's just see what even happens here. So this is probably not going to work at all because I'm delusional. So let's go over here. Let's give ourselves some more room and see if I can figure out how I did this before. We can kind of recreate it. Okay, so we have a div. We got this. We got absolute. So it's got a height of 0 and a width of 0. That seems a little unusual. I feel like this element has a height, so I should be able to do this. So you know what we're going to do? Why don't we go and look at Tailwind UI for a second. And we'll find an example where I did this and see if I can remember what the trick was. So did I do it in the newsletters? No. Did I do it in CTA sections? No. Did I do it in, I think I did it in feature sections. No. Where did I do this the other day? Stats? Yeah, okay, so here's an example. See how we have this like overlapping border thing? So let's see if we can figure out how we did that. Okay, so we have all right. This is kind of the trick. So there's an extra element. And if you look at how this element is positioned, it's like, so here's like kind of the wrapper, and we've got this element inside it with a 50% height that just like pretends to continue the thing above. So that's how we're going to try and do this one. So I think what we need to do is actually give this like an inset 0 in addition to the height of 3/4. And if I'm thinking about this correctly, this actually has to have BG gray 900. And this needs to have BG white. So let's see. Did we get this element showing up? The H3/4 thing isn't working, so let's go to our Tailwind config for a second and add some heights, because I don't think I have these in my regular height config. This is kind of like a trick that I didn't realize I needed until recently. So I'll probably be adding this sort of thing to Tailwind proper, so everybody can do this sort of sneaky stuff. Just going to wait for that to recompile. One thing that we're also going to have to do, because this has to break out of the sides, we're going to need to change how we do the container stuff. So we're going to need to take this element and close it off and duplicate it basically in here. Basically this padding has to be like duplicated because we need the full width element to kind of bleed out to the sides. So if we make this one relative, I think we might get closer to the results we're trying to get. Okay, so see, now we have it partially overlapping. So if you look at the actual height of this element, I wish I could like zoom out without it being messed up, but we can kind of see it here. So here is the whole container for all the cards, and then we have this kind of overlay that kind of covers up 3/4 of them, which is just kind of an arbitrary number, right? We're never going to get it exactly to what Steve had, but in this case it's pretty close. And since we kind of need to do a similar thing on the full screen one, I think it makes sense to kind of do it generally where we did. But maybe what we want to do is just change the percentage. So instead of 3/4, maybe we want to do bigger. You know what I mean? So let's think. What would be a good one to do? You know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up Tailwind, and we'll find the default config. Default config stub. And let's just grab all of our percentages that we use for width. I'm just going to add all of these to our height scale. So this way we have like a consistent, we have percentage widths just available in Tailwind, and we can do whatever we want. And since we're going to be using Purge CSS on this site, it's not going to be a big deal. So now instead of doing 3/4, we could try something like 7/12 or something. That's not even right. 9/12. That's the same. 10/12. So that comes down a little bit more, or we could go like 11/12 and like really make it go down pretty far, right? I think like 10/12 or 5/6 is pretty good. We could even do 7/8, I guess, probably, right? Is that a thing? No, we don't have it. Let's try 5/6 then. Do we have tenths in Tailwind? No, 5/6. We shouldn't have to duplicate the cards, but we'll see. Definitely, my goal is to not duplicate them. Let's just put it that way. All right, so that's decent. I wonder if that's supposed to be white or not down there. Yeah, it is. All right, so we need some space here. So I think what I'm going to try is just doing like a padding bottom on this that's like equal to the padding top that we did here. So we have, my mouse is going crazy for some reason. Like it's like scrolling and I'm not doing anything. Like why? Why is it scrolling? Someone tell me. What's going on? Is everything scrolling? All right. Weird. It's probably something to do with browser sync. Does Steve have a border on this? No, it's just like shadows in Figma are a little bit different than they are in CSS. So it's like not as easy to see the distinction here. Might have to think about that one. There's a trick that we could do, which is Oh, my whole screen just went black. I've been having some issues with my Apple Pro Display XDR, but I don't have time to take it in to get it looked at. So that's really annoying. We have this Shadow XS thing. Oh, and these should be Shadow LG, actually. Let's just see if that helps, first of all. Helps a little bit. I'm just going to grab some of these divs and move them up and hope that we kind of got them right. So this does help a little bit. You can see there's like a little bit of an extra line. It helps with that distinction around the elements. It's kind of a trick that we figured out when we were working on drop downs. Can't decide if it's worth it or not. I'm going to opt out of it for now. I'll get Steve's feedback on that later. All right. So now, like I was saying before at the very beginning of the stream, these other components are actually like built into Tailwind UI for the most part. So we don't really have to make those, but we do have to like do the desktop stuff. So maybe what we'll do is we'll figure out kind of our breakpoints for this pricing page, and then we'll add the other stuff after. So this is my workflow when doing this stuff, which I think is kind of interesting. You can see, like I mentioned before, 639 is the next kind of sizzy breakpoint that I give myself. And that's just so I can see, like, does this design look stupid right before I have the ability to actually change it? And there's a couple of different tweaks I can make here. In this case, like, everything's way too wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a max width to all these containers. So right here, I'm going to do like max width. Actually, you know what? This one I'm not too worried about changing yet, because this one is the one for the text. It's kind of nice that we get some more room for the text, although it's kind of crappy that we have to worry about, or see how much extra space we get under here. I think I'm just going to change this in Steve's design, because we have to kind of find a middle ground that works for both situations. So 2 still looks fine to me. And this leading, I think we can drop this down, because like when that wraps, I don't think it needs to be as... Yeah, that looks better to me. So I'm just going to stick with that and tell Steve to, you know, go. But this stuff is too wide. So let's make this stuff narrower. So what I'm going to do is this element where we're actually controlling, this is where like the page padding is. This is what controls like this stuff here. It's going to add a max width to this. Let's just start with like MD and MX Auto so it's centered, and just see what that looks like. So that didn't work perfectly because we have this element here. So basically what that tells me is we need to do some stuff in a different spot. We need to cut this out. Div class equals here. And then somewhere down here we need an extra div. I'll just make one and hope Prettier sorts it out. And it generally does. Okay, so I've added like this extra wrapper here. All right, so like that's like a pretty healthy width for those cards, but I will always usually play around and just see like, is there a better one? Is SM better? You know, I would say that that's probably not better. LG I think is going to be bad. Even this is actually not as bad as I thought it would be. What does MD look like again? You know what? I think I actually like LG better than MD. I didn't think I would like it being this wide, but it actually kind of looks nice. Like it doesn't make this text wrap, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'll get Steve's opinion on this too, but I think this is pretty good. One thing that's kind of neat, by the way, about the, you know, we did that trick with this element here to do the 5/6 height. The reason I like this solution a lot to trying to do these overlapping backgrounds, I used to do this with negative margins, by the way. The reason I like this is this height is now always relative to like the elements that I'm trying to overlap. So if these elements get shorter because like text isn't wrapping and stuff like that, this seam, like where it's overlapping, always kind of stays in generally the right spot. Whereas if I use a negative margin, it'd be like, negative MT 32 or something. And that's like a fixed amount that doesn't adapt when the content causes the stuff that I'm trying to overlap to change in height. So this is kind of a cool trick. Okay, so now on 640, I think we finally have the chance to actually do some stuff. So if I look at Steve's designs, usually what he does is he bumps up the font size once he gets to here. So I think we can probably do the same. So we'll just go like SM text like 5XL, just see what happens. See if we are happy with that. Yeah, like that looks pretty good. How big does he go here? He goes to font size 64. So we'll go even bigger eventually, I think. The rest of this stuff though, I think we'll probably keep the same. I know that he does bump up, I think, this size. So that's 72. Here it's 64, 30, 24. So he bumps up some of this stuff, 30, 30. So I wonder if we can change that here. So let's just experiment with it. So he bumps from 24 to 30 on that one. Okay. So let's just try SM text 4XL, SM leading 10, since we want to go up a little bit on the line height too. So that causes that to wrap, but I think I'm fine with that. And then we're going to bump up the font sizes on these ones. So this goes from 2XL to 3XL. Let's just select both of these and do this. SM text 3XL, SM leading 9. Here's something I friggin' hate about VS Code, by the way. When you're doing multiple selections, it doesn't automatically scroll the windows. So see this? I select all, I go to the end of the quotes, and now I want to type like SM text 3XL. Notice how like now I'm like typing and I can't even see what's on the screen. Especially like right here. I was just about to point at the screen with my fingers if that would be helpful for anyone. Or now I'm trying to type the leading. I just have to hope I spell it right. In Sublime, it auto scrolls to keep it in view. So VS Code, Sublime. Problem is I feel like Sublime is just eventually going to stop working, so I'll just have to suck it up. Now we got a problem with the width here, so maybe we'll jump to SMW24 or something like that. We'll have to figure. I'm gonna have to look at this with Steve. I could hack around on this, but he's probably gonna have stronger opinions on how we should do this. Probably we want to right align this text in this container, but you know what? I feel pretty confident about that at least, so I'm just gonna do that. Yeah, and this is okay. And then we got to do the middle text too, right? So this one goes up to, so this goes to 48, this goes to 72. I'm not entirely convinced Tailwind has a font size 72 out of the box. So we'll just have to add 7XL, I guess. Font size? No? So we'll add that. Font size 7XL is going to be 72 divided by 4 is 18 rem. All right, so we're going to go SM text 7XL. And what did we say this one was? 48, which is, I don't know, 12 rem, which is, am I doing my math completely wrong here? This is not 18 rem. Holy smokes. That is 4.5 rem. And 48 is 3 rem, which is text 5XL. All right, so this is going to be SM text 5XL. And the line height on this, I think we should probably stick with, what do we do? Do we do anything for that in letting tight? Looks like we generally do letting none for that on newer components. All right, let's just see what we get. I might have screwed up some placement of some stuff. Generally still looks pretty fine. Okay. Now, does Steve change? He might want to change spacing here. I could also see him wanting to make these cards narrower since they have like smaller sizes in their content. But we'll see. Once I get the fonts working, we'll be able to judge it better. All right, so I'm kind of expecting that we're not really going to change much. I think not until, like, this is going to have to stay the same here. And I think at 1024 will be where we finally have the opportunity to put them all side by side. So let's figure that out, I guess. This is going to be a pretty fun challenge. LG Flex. What happens? All right. So we're going to want to put this one in the middle. So I'm just going to go down to this other card. And we'll just say LG order 0. Is that a thing? Negative order 1. Is that a thing? No, I know what it is. We have order first in Tailwind. Okay. Now, interestingly, that puts things in sort of an unexpected place. Let's try putting explicit orders on all of these and see if that affects things differently. Order 3. And this one, LG order 2. Bootstrap is better. If the moderators want to remove Luigi, you could do that. Just kidding. So why is that not working? Where's all that space on the left coming from, I wonder? Oh, I see. The max width. Okay, so let's change this to LG. We'll do like max width screen XL. So like 1280. Shouldn't affect us here. Okay. And why? What's going on here now? Okay, so I think we need these cards to have some widths. So I think me and Steve did hack on this a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give basically what we want to do is we want to give one of these elements a width, and we want the other ones to just flex to fill the remaining space. So why don't we try giving this card a width? Like, say that we gave this like a max width of extra large. What's that? 36 times 4. So that's times 16. It's 576 pixels. How do I get Alfred to stay on the screen so you guys can see my math? 32 times 16 is 512. And Steve has this card as like 507. But this is, again, on a bigger screen. So let's see. What's MD? 28 times 16. 448. let's try this. We'll go max width MD, LG width full, LG flex grow, and then for the other cards, we're gonna give them basically a width of 0. Sounds weird, but I think this is gonna be the trick. What on earth am I looking at here? Where's the marketing one? Okay. Oh, you know what? This has to be Shadow LG. That's why my multiple cursors aren't selecting what I expect. Okay, so let's go LG width 0. This is kind of the trick for making sure that they flex properly. LG flex 1. And I think we should see something happen here. Okay, so like something happened. And for this first one, we want to say LG rounded L LG, LG rounded R none. All right, so we get we got to duplicate this crap because we got all this. It's kind of annoying. LG rounded none, LG rounded TL LG. All right, so that should, yeah, now we get the square corner there. And then we're going to do the same sort of thing here. LG rounded none, just to undo it all. LG rounded BLLG. Okay, and then I'm also going to like change the flex positioning of this stuff. LG flex, LG item center, just so that things are, we don't have the extra whiteness happening. All right, so this is getting close. And then here we're gonna go, we'll just do it this way. LG rounded none, LG rounded R, LG. I'm gonna change it on the one up here too. Instead of rounded R none, we'll just do rounded none. This is like usually how I do stuff with Tailwind. When I want to like take something that's done at one breakpoint, but then like kind of start from scratch at the next breakpoint, I just say, okay, reset it, then start from scratch. It's usually a little bit clearer when you come back to read it later, what you were doing. Okay, so then same here. We're going to go rounded, none, LG, rounded, top right, LG. And then LG, my daughter's upset by the sounds of it. Rounded, BRLG. Okay, so now we've got some stuff going on. One thing I'm curious about is this has position relative. If we take this one and we give it like a box shadow 0, 0, like 15 pixels red. Okay, see how that bleeds on top of this card? That means that our stacking order isn't really ideal here. So let's fix that too. We want like this to be higher than these two. So I'm gonna find like the nearest ancestor for all of them, which I think is like probably this one. We'll just stick like a Z10 or Z0 in this so we have like an explicit stacking context. And then here we'll go relative Z20. And for the other two, we'll do Z10. Actually, these can be Z0. and this one can be Z10. There's no use, like, no point in just inflating our Z indexes higher than we need to. Okay, so let's see if we're getting the results that we want here. So now in theory, I should be able to find this one and maybe just do like a box shadow 0, 0, 0, 25 pixels red. Yeah, okay, so now you can see like this one's on top definitively. All right. So I mean, we have a probably like right here we might like want to go, you know, we might want to tinker with things a little bit, like see things that are a little bit tight there. So maybe we don't want to do an LG max width MD on the middle one. Like maybe this has to be like a max width small. It's kind of tough to figure out exactly the best way to do it because and he's got things centered differently here, but yeah. Because once you get up here, now these ones kind of get bigger. So maybe like the actual right way to do this is flip it around, where we do like LG width 0 on the middle one, as sort of odd as that sounds, with a flex grow, and then we do an explicit width on the side ones. So here, say we did like LG width 0, max width SM, LG let's see, what do we even get when I do this on both? Flexbox is, I like to think I have a pretty good grasp of it, but when you start getting pretty funky with stuff, it can be harder. Okay, so like, that is obviously no good. So let's go with XS here maybe. This is going to be hard to make it work, I think. $10.24. So we've got 320, 320, 320. Say we just took this one and instead of giving it like a max width XS, what if we just did like LG width 64? And then it's like we need an in-between size here. It's like I kind of want it to be like 20. That's 320. But then like this one doesn't fit. Trying to fit a lot here. I wonder if a better solution would be to shrink some font sizes and stuff. But you know what? I think what I'm going to do for now, let's undo back to like this solution. Since that was like fairly close. Like it's not perfect, right? But I think I could probably adjust some font sizes to make it good enough. So we'll roll with this. And then let's adjust this background overlap. So we'll just jump up to here. So we had like that H56 thing, so that's probably too much here. So let's just go like LGH 2/3 or something like that. That's probably like closer to what Steve had imagined at this size. All right, so now that we have this part done, what I want to try, and this is actually just me hoping, I want to see if we can kind of build these other two sections pretty fast by just using components that are in Tailwind UI. So let's go to Testimonials. And I think Steve's design is kind of inspired by this one. So we'll use this as a starting point. So I'm just going to copy the code. I'm going to head over here. I think we'll do it just right after the main section. Let's just see what we get in the code. Okay. Looks like we get something pretty reasonable, in fact. All right, so there's like the start of a testimonial here. Now, it looks like these dots are kind of in a weird spot, so maybe we've kind of created a little bit of a bug for ourselves here. Let's see, how's this supposed to behave? So that's kind of how the demo works there. So let's see how it works for us. It looks like this background image is just like not really being rendered where I would expect it to. You know what it is? We're missing some values. So this is good for me to learn. If you look in like, I've got this Tailwind iframe config file, which is like the config file for the Tailwind UI components, and these are all values. Like I have to kind of go through this and make sure that they're all stuff we're still using, but this is kind of where I've had to add stuff that we needed for Tailwind UI that wasn't in Tailwind. So it's been like a pretty good way to test the defaults and stress them pretty hard. I definitely know that I need these inset ones too. So I'm just going to bring these over because I know that I need these. And these are going to get, anything that's in Tailwind UI is going to make its way into Tailwind's defaults eventually. Okay, so here we've got like a testimonial. It's not going to be perfect, but we can tweak it, right? So kind of one of the things like we're kind of hoping with Tailwind UI is that because what you get is just HTML, that if you need to just like make some alterations, then you can, and it's just a good starting point. Like maybe you can use it exactly as it is, or maybe you want to tweak it a little bit. Either way, hopefully it just like is helpful as a starting point. So we're going to do white so that it transitions better with that. I'm just going to delete the logo because we don't really need a logo. And I'm going to change this to be Justin Jackson because he's the one giving us our testimonial here. And we'll just change this to founder of Transistor. And then let's go find Justin Jackson's profile photo. Let's go to Twitter. Am I Justin? And we'll just copy it from here for now. I'll probably want to host this myself eventually, but that's okay. So there's Justin. We've got a indigo slash there. Steve likes the teal slash, so we'll change that to teal 400. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, and we do have a testimonial that I can put in here. So I'm just going to copy this quote and stick it in. And it might be longer than the one that we designed for, right? So we might have to, yeah, like I think you could argue that this is probably a little too big of a font. So let's just change that. So instead of having text 2XL letting 9, maybe we'll go with text XL letting 8. Yeah, and like that's fine. And maybe we want to go through and like highlight certain words and stuff like that. I don't know. Steve has gray 900. This is gray 900. So that's fine. And if we go and look at that on mobile, it's already responsive. So yeah, yeah, it's a pretty long testimonial, so we may ask Justin to chop it down a bit. But you can see like everything kind of just generally works on mobile out of the box, so that's cool. Again, might always have to do a little bit of tweaking for your context, but whatever. Okay, FAQ section. I'm pretty sure this is taken from Tailwind UI as well. So if we go to FAQs, it's this one. So I'll just grab this, and we'll just, again, literally we're just going to find where Justin's thing ended. So this div, we're just going to paste this at the end of it and just see how close we get as a starting point. Like, not far off, really. We got to update the background color because it looks like Steve is doing a gray 50 background here. And I think he's doing something different with the font here. So he's doing like 48 pixels and he's using our display font. So we'll just update that to be, I think 5XL, letting none probably. Font display. Font semi-bold. And just double check that that's the right font size. And we'll have to see what he did on mobile. We might have to tweak it for that too. So that's 48. And then on mobile, he drops down to 36. So yeah, maybe we just do this at like MD or something. We'll just test it out. Again, the nice thing is we don't have to do the whole thing from scratch. It's mostly good as a starting point. So now drop down. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, so I mean, now the FAQ stuff is pretty much done. I just got to go through and put in the content. I tried to be pretty smart about how I built this too. Also, for all my FAQs, I decided to use dad jokes for every single one. I like to try and sneak a little bit of fun stuff in there somewhere. Yeah, I tried to build the FAQ stuff in a pretty reasonable way. So if you want to add more, you really just need to like add questions to the bottom. It's just 2 columns that just stack, right? So if we need to add another question to this side, we can just like duplicate. Now we got another question, and based on how long the answers are, maybe you want to reorder them to keep it kind of visually balanced. But yeah, pretty easy to kind of just go through and make those adjustments. I tried to do a pretty good job of using the right markup for things too, right? So like FAQs are done as a definition list with DTs for the questions and DDs for the answers. Things like H2s, you probably have to tweak once in a while because, of course, the actual heading hierarchy depends on like where you're doing it in the page and what comes before it. But yeah, so that's that's the rest of it basically built. I'll go over it with Steve and fine tune it, and I'll put in the real content and stuff. And I got to get this font working and stuff like that. But, I think actually we want to make this text bigger probably on large screens. Let's see. He goes to 64. So let's bump that up. So choose a package. So maybe on LG, we'll go to like text 6XL or something. Let's see. Yeah, big, choose a package. Does he make the logo bigger? This logo is disaster. It's not aligned properly. Doesn't really look like it. I wonder if we could make the logo bigger here. Seems okay. Anyways, yeah, that's basically it. I think, a little bit of fine tuning that I'll do probably as we work on the content, as I get some feedback from Steve, but able to bang that together pretty fast. This component was, of course, the most amount of work, but for anybody who wants this for their own site, it won't be any work because I'm just going to copy this now and stick it into Tailwind UI as a component, and we'll be off to the races. But the other stuff I was able to basically just stack on top of each other, make a couple tweaks, and took no time at all. So yeah, these dad jokes are good. Let me see, what are the ones I liked the most here? I think I like the pterodactyl one the best. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom? Because the P is silent. Oh, man. Good stuff. All right. So that's basically it, I think, for the stream. I'm going to work on these little font details and stuff like that with Steve. Hope you learned something. Hope this looks interesting to you. And yeah, excited to get this finished and get it into the hands of anyone who's, interested in checking it out. So thanks, everyone. And I'll see you on another stream sometime in the near future.